Slow, a bit of crop walking.
Ne bunlar böyle? Hani filmlerde olur ya, oturmalık. Gözlüğüm bağırıyor. Allah Allah, ne kadar değişik bir şey şu yeşiller. Otur üstüne bir de bunlar. Bu nilüfer çiçeği. Bizim rozetlere var.
Rozet.
Bu da bak çok olur bizde. Yani bizde olan çiçekler bunlar. Bizim iklim. Ben çıkıyorum.
Evet, büyük bir pavloyu ağacı.
Değil mi? Fatih. Bizim daha geniş yapraklı, bunun yaprakları çok.
Dev bir ağaç.
Ekin diyorlar Türkiye'de çünkü kuşlar bunun tohumunu alıp taşıyormuş. Çoğalıyormuş bu.
Bu gördüğümüz dev ağaç meşe ağacının bir türü. ...1600-1700'lerden kalma bir çınar ağacı.
Doğu tarafı Avrupa'nın.
Bir zamanlar prensesin eviymiş. 1736'dan 1802'ye kadar.
Güzel bir saraymış, burası palas gibi bir şeymiş. Prince of Wales ve konsort şeyi.
Güneş saati.
Ne yeşillik mi?
Çeşmede de satıyorlar onları. Urla'da da satıyorlar.
bak ağaçları. Rahatsız olmadan çalış. Değil mi?
Evet.
Uçuyorlar bak.
Aha, uçan kas. Bak şarkı söylüyorlar bir de.
Naneleri var.
Şifalı bitkiler köşesi. Lavanta. Lavantanın diğer cinsleri. Kraliçe bahçesi. Ödül almış. British Tourist Authority Landscape Heritage Award. Şimdi traktörle tur atacağız.
Tour on Curious View, which we're all ready to come on the tour. And so we're just about to depart now. Before we do go, some important safety information. Please keep your head and arms inside the carriage at all times as we do pass close to trees and shrubs. Please do not attempt to open any doors until we come to a complete halt at the designated stop. And please do not open any doors while we are on the move. In the unlikely event of an emergency, you'll find a push button in the ceiling at the end of each carriage. So I'm now going to hand you over to our commentator today, Esther Nose-Again.
We're moving on now. Thank you, Rob. As we turn, you'll see the Temperate House on the left-hand side. It's one of the finest examples of Victorian glass houses here in Kew. Much bigger than the Palm House, as it happens. A very fine selection of Antipodean plants. If we might have one or two Antipodeans on board with us this morning, take a one to you. There are things like bunya trees and waffles. What is a wattle, Ron, do you know? No, not a waffle, a wattle. Ron is a botanist, of course, aren't you, Ron? In the Temperate House also you'll find the honey palm from Chile, which has the thickest trunk in the plant kingdom. There's also a Chilean wine palm, which is the tallest indoor plant in the world. It's 52 feet high, and it's still growing. I think I have to trim it now and again, of course. Otherwise it'll be sticking out the top. There's also an interesting plant from South Africa called the Cape Protea, and you can find the Cape Protea today. It doesn't flower very often. It last flowered in 1986, and that was after a period of 160 years, so you never know. If you find it today, it might just flower for you. You'd be very lucky. There are also a number of other plants, including screw pines, which have a peculiar spiral arrangement of spiny leaves and aerial roots that are sent down from the stems down to the ground, and they prop up the plant. Screw pine. But also jojoba, tea plants, and an important plant, of course, the cinchona, which is a medicinal plant. You can extract quinine from cinchona, and of course that's very important in terms of treating malaria. So many plants like rubber were very important to Kew, and Kew played a very important role in the foundation of the British Empire. In fact, Joseph Chamberlain in the House of Commons in 1898, this is going back a bit, he declared, "I do not think it's too much to say that at the present time there are several of our important colonies which owe whatever prosperity they possess to the knowledge and experience of and the assistance given by the authorities at Kew Gardens." So you can't underestimate the importance of this place. Now, as we go around the gardens, you'll see a number of follies, most of which were created by Sir William Chambers, who was architect to the King. And we'll get our first glimpse shortly on the left-hand side through the trees here of the pagoda. And we'll tell you more about that in a second. Very iconic building, of course. You can go anywhere in Kew Gardens and people usually think of the pagoda. You can find it on tea towels across the world. There were lots of follies. The pagoda is one of them. There was also a mosque and an Alhambra. Not everybody liked these follies. One described them as an unmeaning falbala of Turkish and Chinese checkerbook. What is a falbala? I'm not sure. I've never come across that word before.
Türk camisine esinlenerek yapmışlar. O pedagog vardı ya, uzun bir tane.
Chambers was a specialist in Oriental design, Chinese design. There's the pagoda on the left-hand side. You get a nice view there through the trees. The pagoda has 10 stories. It was originally decorated with dragons and bells, and the dragons must have looked very spectacular. They were covered in glistening glass. It must have looked beautiful in the twilight. The dragons mysteriously disappeared some years ago. It is said they were sold off perhaps to pay off George IV's debts. Now here on the left-hand side we've got the Japanese pagoda. Looking very beautiful today. There are 3 gardens in the Japanese gateway, rather. 3 gardens. There's a peace garden, activity garden, and a harmony garden. It's actually one of the finest examples of classic Japanese construction in Europe. So we're very lucky to have it here at Kew. It's called Chokushimon, and it's made of inoki wood, which is a Japanese cypress. It was originally constructed for the Anglo-Japan exhibition in 1910, and it was reconstructed here. So we're nearly celebrating 100 years of the Japanese gateway. Another one of our stops. Tell you a bit more about the pagoda was, I understand that during wartime, during the Second World War, up to 7 bombs were dropped around the pagoda, and none of them hit. It was altogether very fortunate. Having said that, ballistics experts have actually used the pagoda to practice dropping bombs within it, and there were holes drilled through the number of different floors through the pagoda where they were dropping the bombs themselves, not exploding ones of course. There was a suggestion in the late 19th century by the Gardener's Chronicle that the pagoda would make a nice tea house. Not quite sure what we think of that. There would be lots of running up and down stairs. Not quite sure where you put the kitchen either. We're happy to move on, thank you, Ron. As I say, the pagoda has 10 stories, 10 separate segments or roofs in it. It might have been where Chambers got the design wrong, because I read that traditional Chinese pagodas should have odd number of stories rather than an even number of stories, so perhaps he wasn't such a specialist after all. Now, this corner of the gardens, we'll be heading shortly towards Queen Charlotte's Cottage, which is a very distinctive feature of the garden, very beautiful. It's a small summer house, and recently during May time it's been surrounded by a carpet of bluebells. It's one of the most popular sites in Kew Gardens. It's constructed as a summer house or a summer pavilion for the royal family, King George III and Queen Charlotte, and their 15 children. We will get a glimpse of the Queen Charlotte's Cottage just through the trees. Ron will slow down for us and we'll point that out. Queen Charlotte herself was a keen botanist. She was actually described as perhaps the first female botanist in the wide circle of the British dominions. Certainly Joseph Banks, who was a very important figure associated with the gardens, noted her botanical zeal and knowledge. Queen Charlotte has a plant named after her. She was, I think her surname was Mecklenburg-Strelitz. And there is a plant called Strelitzia reginae, which is the bird of paradise flower. Very exotic, it has orange and blue petals, very curiously shaped. Queen Charlotte was a botanical artist as well. There on the left hand side, you'll just get a glimpse of the Queen Charlotte's Cottage through the trees as Ron slows. Don't worry if you haven't picked it out, it's quite difficult to see, but do make a venture into this corner of the gardens later in your day.
Something you can see.
So Charlotte was
Bizim Polonyalar.
she was noted for drawing a number of plants and specimens around the gardens. Very keen she was, and she was a specialist also in collecting dried and pressed flowers. She found Kew uncommonly cheerful, apparently. Sadly, of course, she died in Kew Palace, which we'll see later on our tour this morning. There is a chair, I think, in Kew Palace where she's said to have died, and I understand nobody has sat in it since. I'll be coming up to another one of our scheduled stops here in a second. On the right hand side you'll see the lovely lily pond. On the right hand side you'll see a splendid tree almost in the water there. That's the swamp cypress. It's from Florida in the southeastern United States. I like to think of it as the knobbly need plant. It has peculiar roots which expose themselves before plunging into the water.
That's a smoke bush there too, Katinas.
That's very often in this corner of the garden. Sometimes we're attacked by some of the wildfowl that live here in the gardens. Have been here many years, of course. I've already heard one of the peacocks this morning. They have a distinctive cry. Kept here at Kew. We might certainly, when George III lived here with his family, they kept a menagerie, which is a selection of all sorts of different animals from all over the world. Very exotic it must have been. They had wallabies and kangaroos, different bird life. There was a quagga. You know what a quagga is, Ron? It's an extinct animal now. It's like a zebra, but principally had stripes at the front. That's a quagga.
Çocuklar için hayvanat bahçesi var. Zebralar, zürafalar.
I did find out the other day that at Buckingham Palace they also kept a particularly bad-tempered zebra. Now we're in that area of the gardens. We're approaching the ground lake on the right-hand side. It's an artificial lake, of course. It was constructed with materials. The whole was constructed with materials that were created for the used for the temperate house. The construction of the temperate house. And the lake is actually connected to the Thames, the River Thames. We're moving towards the Thames now, and there are two culverts which link the lake to the Thames in order to keep it topped up from time to time. Not the Thames, Ron, that can top itself up, I imagine. On the left-hand side here, we've got a human-sized badger set. So if you've ever felt like being a badger for a day, well, that's the place to go. You crawl inside and you find out the various different rooms and areas that a badger has in its set. I've always wondered, Ron, if you put lots of badgers together in a row, would you have a badger set? I I hope Ron's going to do a right-hand turn here, otherwise we'd end up at the Thames. You are going to... Thank you, Ron. Now in a moment, for my money, especially on a day like this, you're about to get one of the most romantic, gorgeous views in London on the left-hand side. Oh, there is an Egyptian geese, I think, on the... Is that an Egyptian goose? On the left-hand side, crawling around there? Does he go for the peanuts? There we are, Cyan House on the left-hand side across the river. Now, I wonder if anybody can spot what's missing. There's normally something on the top of Cyan House there. I think he's gone for a spring clean. There's usually a lion on the top of Cyan, a magnificent stone lion. I think the flag is up, Ron, but it's still blowing in the wind. Not much breeze today. The flag is up on Cyan, which means the Duke of Northumberland is in residence at the moment, which is reassuring for Ron and I because we're popping out around for cucumber sandwiches later. He doesn't know it yet, but we are going to knock on his door. Cyan House is constructed in Bath stone in the Palladian style by Robert Adam. And you'll notice a distinctive landscape feature parallel to the Thames. That's the ha-ha. Many of you may know what a ha-ha is. It's almost like a sort of dike feature which dips down before the river there. And there's a very sad story about the ha-ha here at Kew. Many of you might have been familiar from an 80s publishing phenomenon which was called The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. It was by Edith Holden. Some of you might even have it on your bookshelves at home. It was botanical pictures, paintings, and huge success. Sadly, the creator of The Country Diary, Edith Holden, actually drowned in a ha-ha here in Kew. Very sad. She was actually understood to be picking chestnut buds, and she was found drowned in the ha-ha with a bunch of twigs in her hand. With all the local papers, apparently the doctor who officially pronounced her dead was Dr. Payne. Did you not? That view at Cyan House, along with a number of other views of Kew, have of course been famously painted by landscape painters such as Richard Wilson, J.W. Turner and Rowlandson. In a moment we're going to approach the rhododendron dell, which is on the right hand side shortly. And it was created by Capability Brown. Many of you might have heard of Capability Brown. First name was Lancelot, of course, Lancelot Capability Brown. Do you know why he was called Capability Brown, Ron? He was capable, yes. And apparently every time he was given a new commission, he would say, "Let us study the capabilities of this site." That was his catchphrase. Let us study the capabilities of this site. And he created this rhododendron dell here, hundreds of different species of rhododendrons. Whatever you do, don't eat any of them. Not that I imagine you were planning to, but make sure you don't eat any of them, because there is such a thing as mad honey disease, which you can get if you eat too many rhododendrons. Apparently the symptoms are dizziness, weakness, excessive perspiration, nausea and vomiting. Oh dear. Do not eat the rhododendrons. Now we do a Halloween tour here in Kew Gardens, and believe you me, there are a number of strange and peculiar occurrences that have happened here in the gardens over the years, reported by the gardeners and staff. And believe you me, there is what they call a mysterious something, an unspeakable something in the rhododendron dell. Well, I mentioned George III earlier on, of course, known as Farmer George. He much prefers living in Kew to London, so I certainly see as little of London as I possibly can. And I am never a volunteer there, he said. Now the gardens themselves were founded by Princess Augusta, who was the Princess of Wales at the time. And later in our tour we'll see the Princess of Wales Conservatory, which is actually named after Princess Augusta. Some people understand it might be named after Princess Diana, the late Princess Diana. She opened it, but the conservatory is actually named after Augusta. Now Augusta's husband, the Prince of Wales, Prince Frederick, He was known as Fritz. Sadly, he died gardening. Very unfortunate. I understand he was supervising some tree planting and he caught a chill. And that was that, really. And what Princess Augusta did after Frederick's death was to bring in Lord Bute, her very good friend Lord Bute. And they worked together to create the gardens here at Kew. Lord Bute was a notable fellow, very important fellow in politics, and he was very notable for his elegant legs, apparently. Now, when Frederick was alive, he realised this, that Augusta would rather spend time with Lord Bute. So apparently Frederick would organise for his own mistress to turn up and make sure that Augusta spent time with Bute while he could see his own mistress. Very happy arrangement all round. There was gossip and scandal, of course, Augusta's relationship with Bute, and apparently Bute had to quit politics in the end because of what had happened.
Arka kapısı.
We're just pausing briefly here. On the left-hand side here, you see one of the oldest trees in the gardens, the magnificent chestnut tree. Some of these trees date back to the early 1700s. And there are 5 particular trees which you might find on your day here today. They're called the Old Lions, the 5 Old Lions. Very ancient trees, and they were brought over from the estate of the Duke of Argyll in Twickenham. You might see 1 or 2 of those later on this morning. And the first place was one William Ayton, and well, they didn't really use the expression headhunted in those days, but he was more or less headhunted from the Chelsea Physic Garden. Some of you might have been to the Chelsea Flower Show this week, and you'll know there's a permanent physic garden in Chelsea, which is actually predates Kew. And Ayton was the gardener who was in charge of Chelsea Physic Garden. Yes. He was brought to create his magic here in Kew. Ayton is actually buried on Kew Green at St Mary's Church, along with a number of notable people, including the artists Gainsborough and Zoffany, and a number of important botanists, of course, who've worked here over the years. Now that chestnut tree we left behind us, very splendid. There is a very old tree here in the gardens which was used for the Harry Potter films. Now I think the intention was to film around the tree itself here in Kew, but that wasn't allowed. So what they had to do was take an elaborate cast, a plaster cast of the tree, of the bark of the tree, and they more or less recreated the tree for the films. So anybody familiar with Harry Potter and familiar with the Whomping Willow, I think it's called, in the Harry Potter books. Next time you watch Harry Potter, you can see the cast of the tree from here at Kew. It's one of the chestnuts, I believe. There's a very twisting one. Now, shortly, Ron's going to do a right-hand turn here. We'll see the climbers and creepers facility here on the left-hand side for the youngsters, of all ages, of course. Good place to have some hands-on fun. And in a moment, we'll see Kew Palace on the left-hand side, where George III and his family lived, very much their residential home. There are a number of palaces which are lost, which are no longer here. One is the White House, which you can see actually marked on the lawn in front of Kew Palace. And the other is what they call the Castellated Palace, which was George III's grand plan. He wanted to build an enormous palace here at Kew. It was his own idea. Not everybody liked it, as it happens. It was a fairly horrible Gothic monstrosity. It was never completed, the Castellated Palace, but you can see it depicted in a number of paintings of the period. Now sadly, of course, George III became unwell as the palace nears completion, but it was decided that it would be demolished before it was ever finished, and so difficult was it to demolish the thing, they had to blow it up with gunpowder in the end. George III, of course, spent many of his last days as you became increasingly unstable and slave trees. Sadly, of course, in later years,
ya bildirin diyor.
very often couldn't decide whether he was good. And on the front here, on the lawn, you'll see the markings of where the old White House would have been. That's one of the old palaces here. And you'll see a sundial there on the front. That sundial actually commemorates the discovery, a scientific discovery by Bradley, of the aberration of light. The aberration of light. I've got to explain this to Ron. So the aberration of light, so that's the light that's coming from the sun and different stars. And clearly it takes a long time to get to the Earth. In the meantime, the Earth is revolving. And so the light you see isn't the light that... Oh, we'll talk about this later on. There's the aberration of light discovered by Bradley. Now, Kew Palace, as you can imagine, is haunted. It's haunted by the ghost of young Prince Octavius. Can be seen sometimes holding a candle, wearing his nightshirt. And there are witch marks up in the top of the palace, carved into the wood. I think it was to ward off evil spirits. And behind the palace, well worth a look, there's a beautiful physic garden where you can see a number of different peculiar herbs that have been used for different purposes over the years. They're very good for different ailments. There's one particular herb which is apparently can increase your sperm count. That's what it says. There's another herb which is very useful if you've been bitten by snakes or scorpions. There's peculiar plants in the physic garden behind Kew Palace. Well worth a look at. I wandered around the other day and it's fascinating. There are also plants apparently which are very good for you if you've been bitten by snakes or scorpions. There's also a plant very helpful if you're a bit of a drunk, if you have one too many. Obviously lots of hangover cures. There's also what they call a bastard rhubarb, which I thought was very amusing. And there's a particular plant which apparently is very good for sores of the secret parts. I'll leave you to think about that. In this corner of the gardens there's a number of spectacular seed sculptures, of course. You'll see these are contemporary sculptures representing different seeds of different plants. What are the seeds we've got here then, Ron? We've got devil's claw behind us, horse chestnut on the right, lotus seed on the left, and the star anise on the left-hand side as well. Is that right, Ron? We're going past that, yeah. So take your right hand turn. Have a careful look at these wonderful, splendid gates on the left-hand side. Magnificent gates onto Kew Green there. We're very lucky to have those gates, actually. Because during wartime, of course, most metal railings from across London were destroyed as propositions for the war effort, the scrap. But the gates remain. There's a Corsican pine on the left-hand side. That's Pinus nigra. Beautiful tree that, and there was an aeroplane hit the top of that tree in 1928. Very unfortunate. The tree has also been struck by lightning a couple of times, and it still bears the scars. That wasn't the only plane to crash into Kew Gardens. There was a plane that crash landed near the Victoria Gate in 1938. So watch the skies today, whatever you do. We have lots of planes going over. Ron's just pointing out, those of you who may be familiar with Wakehurst Place, which is attached to Kew, of course, that's out in the country, but that's where we have the Millennium Seed Bank, which is bomb-proof, isn't it, Ron, pretty much? Nuclear war-proof and very much a Noah's Ark of seeds for future generations. Now in this corner of the garden there are a number of those old lions I mentioned earlier, magnificent trees, and you'll find beautiful trees, one of which is the ginkgo biloba. That's the maidenhair tree. That was actually planted on the site of the old Temple of the Sun, which is one of those follies we talked about earlier. It was destroyed in a storm, and Queen Mary planted the tree on that site in 1923. On the left-hand side here you can see both the Davis Alpine House, which is a new building here at Kew, and also the Princess of Wales Conservatory. Well worth a look in there. There are 10 different computer-controlled environments in there. You'll find carnivorous plants and cacti. There's also the Titan Arum. I'll tell you more about that in a second. And not far away from here is also the what we like to call the pinosaur, the Woolimi pine. Now here on the left-hand side is a Japanese pagoda tree, which is actually from China. So there we are. Beautiful twisted form. One of the oldest trees in the gardens, as you can imagine. And it was only recently in 2006 that they actually renamed the tree after all these years because of experiments and discoveries they've made with the DNA of the plant.
Wow.
Now the Titan arum is a well-known plant here at Kew. It's in the Princess of Wales Conservatory. It's an extraordinary thing. It doesn't flower very often, but when it does, it only flowers for a couple of days. It's a huge plant. It weighs up to about 90 kilos. And when it flowers, it stinks to high heaven. It smells of rotting flesh and fish. The idea being, of course, it attracts insects in its native habitat. It used to be called a different name. It used to be called Amorphophallus titanum. Amorphophallus titanum. Well, you can make up your own mind in terms of what that means, but the name was changed. Apparently Sir David Attenborough had a hand in this, and it's now known as Titan arum. And they had two of them flowering in one go quite recently, which is quite a feat. Also, down underground in the Princess of Wales Conservatory, you'll find poisonous tree frogs from South America, and also a piranha. So there we are. You didn't expect to see a piranha on your day in Kew today, though.
Senin dediğin gördü ama değil ha, ilk yere geldik.
Now we're heading towards one of the most iconic buildings of the gardens here at Kew, of course. You'll see the pond on the left-hand side. There used to be a much huger pond here, which actually stretched under where the farmhouse is now. Across the pond there, you'll see the museum, and there's a permanent exhibition in the museum called Plants and People, where you learn the extraordinary number of different ways that we rely on plants in so many different ways. Medicinal, and also the things we eat and things we use. Now the farmhouse on the right, this is my favourite building, the farmhouse. Extraordinary, it must have been a very visionary building of its time. It very much captured the spirit of the age. So it's made up of 16,000 panes of glass.
Çektim.
Bu anıt Sir William Chambers tarafından Prenses Augusta için 1758'de inşa edilmiş. Sonradan Arethusa adını almış. Büyük Yunan bir su çağlarına dönen Tanrı Arethusa'nın anısına İkinci Dünya Savaşı'nda hayatlarını kaybeden Kew Gardens çalışanları
Bakarım şimdi. Sandviç istiyorum.
Okay, you have one cake and one drink.
That's made from wood.
Hi.
Bitmiyorlar bak.
Hı.
Bu Selçuk'ta satılıyor bu sulama yaptın mı? Kaç para bunun metresi Fatih?
Aynı renginden.
Buraları başka yer.
He.
Evet bunlardan da var değil mi işte? Arsızın. Çok güzel yerler ya.
Kivi.
Kitap. Mançurya'dan gelmiş. Şisandra. Bu da Çin'den.
Will be built a bit flexible enough. All that water that they look like plants for tomatoes.
Birinci olmuş. İkinci olmuş. Bu da üçüncü olmuş.
Sharp.
Üçüncü. Bu da ikinci olmuş. Bunlar da finalistler.
Right.
İyi, ben bunları bırakayım. Sen burada yap yoganı. Bir geleyim ben. Çıkacağım mı?
Asansör varsa da kesin çıkarım. İstiyorsan taşıyamıyorsan
Olmayabilir.
ne?
He?
Taşıyamıyor musun?
Ya ondan değil de.
Nerede
Olmayabilir.
taşıyamıyorsun?
İnşallah vardır.
İnşallah asansörü vardır. Ben de çıkıp gölü göreceğim. Taşıyamıyorsan ne? Bir girdim, üşüyorum. Güneşe çıktım, terliyorum. Bulamadım ortasını.
Don't touch the flowers. Gotta be setting
Yaklaş.
the right thing. Don't touch the flowers. Not touch the
Yeah, that one you can pick.
Ha, orada dur. Bak orada dur, oradan çekeyim.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. They still talking in shorthand.
Don't touch the flowers.
Tamam mı? Yapmış mıyım?
Lily of the Valley Bush.
And you do not touch, yeah? You know that. Forbidden to touch. İnelim mi?
Hı?
İnelim mi?
Gitmek için mi?
Ha.
İyi.
Havuza yakın bir yerde tekrar oynayalım. Gel. Hadi gidiyoruz. Koş.
Tamam, tamam, tamam.
Çekecek misin?
Hı hı.
İstersen otur.
An extra time. Oh, that's disappeared. Oh.
Tamam.
Of what, sorry? Take a picture with this. Yeah.
Çekecek misin fotoğraf? Ben sana çekeyim istiyorsan.
God, your camera's quite clear. Still get my feet.
Gelin gibi ya. Kabarsa var ya. Korkutayım mı ben kabarsın öbür tarafta? Keşke şeyleri alsaydık. Ay öbür tarafına geç. Çabuk gel. Çabuk.
You knew you was having your picture taken, didn't you?
Ya. Maşallah.
Turn around.
Ay gidiyor. Bak. Geline bak. Gel buraya Fatih. Herhalde bunun korunma mekanizması bu. Bize karşı açtı kendini. Ver. Gel. Gel Fatih. Gel. Ver. Ay böyle bir güzellik olabilir mi ya?
Nazarlığa benziyor değil mi?
Şahane ya böyle bir şey olamaz.
The back's a bit boring in comparison. It's quite interesting bottom, but we like the other side better. Thank you. It's just showing that he's not all front. He's got a back as well.
It's got a fluffy bum and some little wobbly
It's lovely.
legs.
Thank you for showing us your bottom. I think the other side's better.
Turn around, please.
Gözünü açıp kapıyor.
Bizi gördüğü için. Ama açacak hali yok.
Şimdi yanına geleceğim. Kaçacak. Uykusunu kaçırdım.
Ben de daha yakın diye kestirdim. Bak perspektif şuradan da perspektif var.
Akdeniz bahçesi. Klamates. Ama çiçek yok üzerinde.
Arap zaten o şey Arap yapısına mı benziyor?
Evet. Evet. Kew Gardens'ın sonuna geldik. Artık Victoria kapısından çıkıyoruz. Richmond'ın meydanı.
Zengin dünyası.
Holnap felkelek a szerint, de figyelj ide, mondok ide valamit, hogyha el akarod vinni a csajt bulizni, vagy valami, akkor menj.
Bak bu tarafa doğru. Marble Arch burasıymış. Burası değil ki Marble Arch.